Hello everybody, Benjamin Johnston here. So we're still continuing the Uncharted series. I've done a review for Uncharted 1 and 2. If you haven't seen that yet, I suggest checking it out. So Uncharted Drake's Fortune is a very fun action game. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves improves on nearly every aspect from the first game and is one of the best action games. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception is pretty much more of the same. So, Uncharted 3 revolves around Nathan Drake and his search for a lost city referred to as the Atlantis in the Sand. So, he's joined up with characters from the other games, and they have to deal with a secret society who is also trying to find the city for themselves. And therefore, conflict ensues, and thus, more fun adventuring you've come to expect from this series. So the game focuses a little bit more on Nate and Sully's relationship, and this is a really strong aspect of the story in this game. You even get to play flashback sequences where you're playing as Nathan Drake as a teenager, where he meets up with Victor Sullivan for the first time, and you could see how they connect so well and how much Sully cares for him, because he's almost kind of like the father figure that Nathan Drake in a sense never had. Some of the supporting characters from Uncharted 2 return, including Chloe Frazer and Elena, but unfortunately, because they focus on Nate and Sully more often, their roles are kind of reduced compared to the second and the first game, which is kind of a shame, but in some respects understandable because it is kind of the core theme of this story. It just would have been nice to have a little bit more interaction with Chloe Frazer and Elena Fisher. There is another cool character that's added to this game called Charlie Cutter, who is like this tough guy who has that soft spot to him. But unfortunately, he's only in the first half of the game, and once we get to the desert section, him along with Chloe are pretty much gone for the rest of the game. Also, I do find that Uncharted 3 does follow very similar beats to Uncharted 2, down to the fact that you're looking for essentially another lost city in this game. So while I do have some slight issues, this is still a really engaging story, and it's the personality and the charm of these characters that had me really invested. Much of the gameplay in Uncharted 3 is very similar to the second game, but they did add some nice little additions here. This is the only game in the series where you can toss grenades back, and the way this works is that when a grenade is tossed at your feet, you have to time it just right to essentially throw the grenade back at the enemy. It's not like a simple button prompt like in a Call of Duty game where you have to just press the button and just throw. This one, there's this little scale thing that you have to hit on the white mark, and you basically toss the grenade back just at the right moment. So it takes good timing to do it effectively. Also, melee combat is probably the best in the series in my opinion. In the second game, it was pretty much a simple counter button that you have to press to win fights, but in Uncharted 3, the fights feel a lot more involved this time. Instead of just having one counter button, they vary up the button prompts, so it keeps you on your toes in terms of what buttons to press, whether you have to escape from a grip or you have to do one of the simple counter buttons more than once sometimes. These are not big changes, but they are pretty cool to have in this particular game. The epic scenarios that you play through are just as grand in scope as they were in the second game. There's a part where you're trying to escape from a sinking ship that's flipped sideways, which is really cool. There's another part where you're hanging for dear life on a plane while flying over the desert, and that was awesome. There's even a moment where you're horseback riding and you're jumping from truck to truck trying to get to the front and jumping back onto your horse at times. That was amazing. It's like something out of a really fun Indiana Jones adventure. And like before, it's fun to watch someone play as well. There's also a lot of moments of great atmosphere at this game. There's a whole section where you're wandering around the Rubicali Desert after surviving a plane crash, and you're just wandering around yourself and trying to find sources of water in that game. I'm not gonna lie, that part was really immersive, and it was great to play on a big screen where you get a sense of scale of the desert. Ultimately, Uncharted 3 is another great sequel to this series. While it's not quite as good as Uncharted 2, it's still pretty close, I would say. While this game doesn't change a whole lot from Uncharted 2, this is one of the cases where I'm okay with it because it was done so well in the previous game. I don't think they need to make a whole lot of fixes. And it's a game that I would recommend to everyone. Whether you love action movies or you love video games, there's some fun to be had here.